Hey, good evening, everybody. Doing a little bit of a stream here. Um, as always, if you come in, when you start coming in, just tell me this shot is not exactly what it should be, but that's fine. As you come in, smash the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't yet, and tell me on the chat how well you can hear me. Um, as the never ending fiddling about sound quality continues. Awesome. And please, I want everybody, if you're coming in, immediately smash the like button. If you haven't yet, click subscribe so you can get all of our videos. Bless. Um, and as I always say, if you're in a position to do it right now, this is a very good time. If you're in a position to do it, to go to patreon.com/TMBS, become a patron, get the whole deal, and we will hook anybody up with deals that need them. We just want to keep getting everything out there for people and keep building in you know, this really exceptional time that, I think in some ways isn't a surprise. Tonight, as always, if you can, hit with as many super chats as possible. I'll try to take your questions and comments as best I can. But I also want to, as I do in all of these, hit some actual topics and get some stuff across. And just start by always saying that I hope everybody's safe. Hey, Amin, thank you. That really means a lot. Thank you so much. Much love back to you. Much appreciation. I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy as much as possible. I hope people close to you are okay. Um, Particularly in New York here, this is really ripping through, and people are losing people close to them. It's really painful. It's really shocking. It's really really messed up, and we need to hold that and be real about that. And then of course look at the bigger picture around it and see what we can do. Here's, oh, if that is literally half the money in your bank account, please take it back, Mohammed. That is not what we want to be doing here. Please, 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 please. Anybody, absolutely, if it's in any way a strain or a burden, do not do it. In any way a strain or a burden, do not do it. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about helping out some UPS Teamsters Union in Philly. They're organizing. These people have to organize a GoFundMe to get themselves protective gear, and also start to look at how they can organize themselves to protect themselves as workers from UPS. Of course, right now we're in the middle. Oh, sweet, CWA member. Right now, we're of course in the middle of the Amazon boycott. I would strongly encourage, thank you, Mohammed. I would strongly encourage everybody to observe the Amazon boycott. It's a week. People are stepping out. They're calling in sick from Whole Foods. And I really think it's hugely important we support them. And I think it's hugely important that we start thinking about concretely generating organizing opportunities, and also a fusion of local and planetary consciousness, which my buddy Jeremy Johnson's been talking about, which I'll get to in a second. But let me take this. I think Bernie needs to do something big to stay in. Thoughts on the campaigning or organizing efforts to bombard Congress with calls urging passage of Medicare for all. I think he can get 1 million plus. I think that's a great idea. And I think it was a very big mistake from the Sanders campaign and from Bernie to not, again, they were doing great work with getting money to people and responding to the corona emergency, but they should have mobilized their lists. Solidarity back to Minneapolis. Thank you so much, Joseph. Stay safe, stay healthy. They should have mobilized their lists to fight against that grand theft bailout that was muscled through. That piece of legislation is a monopoly consolidation a theft of public money for the oligarch sector, for the corporate sector, that is going to be dealt with for decades. Uh, Bernie obviously advocated and put in some really important protections for workers. CG, thank you so much. Much love back to Wyoming. Much love back to Wyoming. Stay safe, stay healthy. But the truth is that the structure of that package is enormously destructive and is an enormous consolidation of corporate power, of monopoly, of the next phase of monopoly capitalism, and they should have mobilized against it. I think actually bombarding Congress with calls for single payer Medicare for all, which of course we absolutely need, I think that actually would be great. I think they need to, at the very least, do some things like that. I think he should not drop out yet. But I think if you're going to play in a kind of in between place where you're not really campaigning to win, which let's be honest, they're not. Um, but I also think that on the flip side, they should make it beyond just a kind of NGO campaign and really slide into the advocacy. And the core of the advocacy right now should be Medicare for all. I agree with you completely. Fell off the Patreon, bro. I've had to move some funds around, but I'll be back in solidarity a day as an essential employee, 6 days a week in the pharmacy. Well, as always, thank you a million. And please, if anybody ever needs a deal or help, particularly if you've already been a patron, just let us know. And of course, I say this unabashedly, I pray you stay safe and healthy working in the pharmacy. I pray you stay safe and healthy. So I think that idea about Bernie mobilizing his forces for a really aggressive push and calls to Congress right now for Medicare for all is a great, excellent idea. Guys, there's 259 people watching and 43 likes. Smash the like button. And of course, if you're new to the channel, immediately hit subscribe so you can get all of the excellent content we do here. And as I said, I'm really proud of it. We really do great work here. This is a really, really important show. And everybody, the Patreon community, the people who are watching, the people who participate, the amazing network of guests, the incredible team, it's a huge honor. And I am really, really proud and honored by what we're doing. And I appreciate all of the support and all of the community immensely. I see those numbers moving up. Shout out to Kali, Om Shri Kali Ma. Smash the like button, smash the like button. So, yeah, I was talking about these really important strikes that are going on. We've already talked about the sanitation workers. We talked about the plant in Georgia. That was an incredible strike taking place as well. And the one that we can all be observing and supporting with the workers at Amazon and Whole Foods taking on that, again, Amazon is a structural threat to really any sort of diversity in the economy and worker power. It is kind of, in many respects, obviously along with Google and Apple and Facebook to a fair extent, to a large extent, but I think Amazon the most extreme of just an extraordinary and really dangerous concentration of power in the economy. And of course, obscene treatment of its workers. And we have an opportunity to be in solidarity with those workers today. We're going to be talking on tomorrow's show with Chris Smalls, who's an incredible organizer. I don't know if you guys saw the report, but of course there was the meeting which included Jeff Bezos himself of the Amazon, Amazon executives figuring out how to smear him, how to undermine the organizing efforts from these incredible guys, these incredible workers. And I'm really, really excited to have Chris on the show. And also tomorrow we're going to be talking with Professor Richard Wolff about this next system shock to capitalism. Fundamentally, capitalism is dangerous for us. It is unsustainable. It does not generate outcomes that work for the great mass of people. And of course, some of the models that we're going to be thinking about to graduate into a post-capitalist system is going to really, it's going to require a synthesis of any number of really, really important things. And this is what I want to kind of talk about a little bit. And then, keep hitting with super chats as well if you have questions. Maybe some of my stimulus money, love from the South, Australia, love you back. Stay safe, stay healthy. Um, and we'll keep going with everything else. But this idea of global interdependence, national social democracy, and local resiliency is really, really important. It's really, really important to bring back a sense of localism, particularly when it comes back to building food sustainability, food security, and resilient pipelines. Hope you're doing well. Stay safe. The COVID-19 pandemic, in response from the Trump administration and others, reminds me of the concept of hyperreality by John. I can never pronounce that last name. I apologize. Um, I'm less familiar with that concept. It strikes me very much as hyper-normalization, in the sense that we already designed this predator economy where we decide that working and poor life is expendable and that certain sections of the population are structurally expendable. And this is getting manifested at an accelerated and violent rate. How can I convince my conservative friends that the New Deal helped us get out of the Great Depression and not World War II? Well, it started, the sort of beginning of exiting began before World War II with those programs. And you just have to look at all thank you so much, at all the contemporaneous, reporting and pre-propaganda that has come out as an attempt to undermine the accomplishments of the New Deal. The idea that the empowerment of labor unions and that social safety net being introduced and the stimulus of actual like middle class and working people in the economy, which took place, yes, in conjunction with the wartime economy, but also before it, is just, it's economically illiterate and it's seriously, it's just not a serious read of history. As always with that stuff, obviously always watch our interviews with Harvey K and check out Harvey K's books. That's the person to check out on that stuff. Um, so, the left needs a version of localism. And I think, fortunately, we actually have a really interesting lineage, which I'm going to be talking more about on the show, both in some of the more in-depth patron bonus episodes and generally. But we have people like E.F. Schumacher, who wrote a book called Small is Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dave. Stay safe in Texas, brother. Stay safe in Texas. Yes, it is going to start kind of moving out the rest of the country. And E.F. Schumacher was a British economist who wrote on localism, on community economics, and redefining what the purpose of economics was in an interesting way. And I'll quote now from him, which I think this is an interesting thing to keep in the mix. This is E.F. Schumacher from his essay, Buddhist Economics. The Buddhist point of view takes the function of work to be at least threefold. Give man a chance to utilize and develop his faculties, to enable him to overcome his ego-centeredness by joining with others in a common task, and to bring forth goods and services needed for a becoming existence. And again, the consequences of that flow from this view are endless. To organize work in such a manner that it becomes meaningless, boring, stultifying, or nerve-wracking for the worker would be little short of criminal, and it would indicate a greater concern with goods than with people, an evil lack of compassion, and a soul-destroying degree of attachment to the most primitive side of this worldly existence. Thank you. Ontario, Canada took hunting away. So yeah, and E.F. Schumacher was also a kind of interesting writer in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s who wrote these institutional critiques of schooling and medicine from an anarchist perspective, I would say, in general. And I think where this all leads to is, thank you guys, there's a guy named Michelle Bowens who does a lot of work with peer-to-peer politics, Jeremy Johnson, Brent Cooper, and this kind of meta-analysis stuff, meta-modernism. And I think what is relevant and what really does overlap with a lot of things that we've talked about on this show and the core drivers of this show, which is internationalism, it's nation states delivering robust democratic socialism at a national level through things like national health care, housing, and other provisions that need to be nationally delivered in the nation state model, and then sort of serious global synchronization, whether it's for solving crises like arms proliferation, the climate crisis, or pandemics, and also building a global ethics um, or a global ethos. You think we should all be chipped biosurveillance? I do not think so. No, absolutely not. I think we really need to guard some sense of liberty and space from governmental and certainly private surveillance. And the third leg of it, which I'm going to be talking more and more about, is this notion of localism in very concrete terms, that power sources, there needs to be municipal ownership of those things. Things like community supported and other forms of localized and organic, non-supply chain, non-corporatized agriculture need to be empowered. There needs to be mechanisms that on the nation state level, but also on the municipal and state level, the ability to produce medicines, drugs, and other vital things that we see, right now, obviously during this crisis, as being kind of woefully underinvested. And I think that there's also a lot of opportunity here for a humanist left perspective to undermine a nationalist case, because we can actually speak to that desire for, yes, of course, people need a lot more empowerment in their community. Of course, people need a lot more agency over their lives, and in a way that it isn't just sort of outsourced to global capital. And some of this writing, again, in this kind of E.F. Schumacher, Ivan Illich tradition, is very interesting and very relevant to that. And I'll definitely be talking about that stuff more. And I hope it interests people as much as it interests me. And also, again, the work of like Jeremy Johnson with the Mutations podcast, and Brent Cooper and others. Apparently, voting is on for Wisconsin tomorrow. The Roberts Supreme Court has stepped in and overruled a delay. And just like Donald Trump, who celebrated the ruling, and just like Joe Biden and the DNC, who have encouraged people to vote, now the Supreme Court is, going to have, in my opinion, obviously blood on their hands. This is disgusting. It's obscene. Am I familiar with the What's Left podcast? I think so. I think so. I'll check it out. I think so. And they have substantive Warren criticism. Well, I'm always up for that. Although I have to say, it's like, yeah, like we needed Warren criticism. Some people did it, and here we are. I still see. I just saw Barack Obama praising Warren today, and that doesn't surprise me at all. I think the Biden campaign is delusional enough to think that Warren will somehow help with a left kind of flank, which is ridiculous. That's obviously not going to happen. Warren, is a very mediocre political performer, and she isn't popular, and doesn't really have much sort of in the way beyond the kind of brand of seriousness. So but we'll see. I'm very disturbed in general by how that campaign and the sort of Democratic leadership is playing out, because they don't even seem to me to be particularly serious about winning. An election that by every standard marker, Donald Trump should absolutely lose in. In addition to him being disgusting and corrupt and everything else, a pandemic and a depression, in no small part due to his unbelievable incompetence, should by traditional metrics means he loses. And of course he can lose. But, there's folks who are going to want to make that, apparently not as much of an obvious slam dunk as it should be. Smash the like button. If you're just coming in, smash the like button. And definitely, if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. And check out our back catalog. I think that these illicit history documentaries we do are incredible. The work with Vic Viana basically with Comrade and above patrons, that's a $21 and above patron level, they get the documentaries first. We release them for those patrons several weeks before we release them for anybody else. And they're real, like actual documentaries that we've taken from longer format Patreon interviews or from original scripts. Uh, and basically we put them together into these really well produced mini docs. And I would check out, if you haven't yet, the whole playlist on the implosion of neoliberalism, the history of the Rand Corporation, histories on states' rights and Medicaid with Jamila Michener. That's really relevant for right now. And great foreign international ones on Brazil, Zimbabwe, Jamaica. Really check them out. And thanks, of course, tremendously as always to all of the amazing patrons who make those possible. Jimmy Dore is now attacking Bernie and thinks Trump will bring Medicare for all. Well, I saw Trump saying that. Obviously, I wouldn't trust anything Trump says. Now, you can make a political point that the Democrats are so right wing and so stunningly incompetent that Trump can outmaneuver them rhetorically. And everybody who knows anything has been saying that for years. So that's an obvious and easy point. I doubt there'll be follow through. There has never been really any sustained follow through on anything that Trump has said that's vaguely populist. And he does make some good populist points going back to 2016, but he's governed like a standard 1% Republican with obviously the extreme dose of xenophobia and just his own kind of personal being, super entertaining. I don't know. I don't know what to, I don't, in general with other folks, I mean, I think there's people out there, obviously, who I think are interesting and I keep a tab on or read or listen to or watch, other folks less. I don't know. Which is not to say, I mean, look, I think Bernie in this bailout thing, I think he absolutely deserves criticism. I think people need to have a smart analysis of his campaign, where it went right, where it went wrong. It's not that anybody's above critique, but I'm not really particularly interested in what Jimmy Dore's fixation is. You and Sam should consider offering a $2 Soy Boy subscription for the time being. Love your show. Well, here's the thing is you can, I mean, again, just let us know and we'll hook you up with what you need. And that's obviously true with the Majority Report as well. So just send us a message for TMBS. Say you want a Soy Boy membership. We'll hook you up. Without a doubt. I think that this is, obviously this is a very scary, very intense time. And I think we need to balance being totally real about it, totally real about how dangerous it is, how disgusting it is, how horrifying it is, and really keeping vigilant about what exactly is happening right now on all levels. And then at the same time, empowering and supporting and really being with workers and frontline people. That's the most important thing. And then figuring out this real synchronized approach of a new internationalism, a new answer to this sort of poisonous globalization with something that is truly globally integrated, rooted in global solidarity and humanity, a serious argument for social democracies across the board. That's also a foreign policy dimension because U.S. empire undermines and wages coups against social progress around the globe, and of course has for decades. It's our own argument in the United States about not living in a suppressive plutocracy here, which is exactly how we live now, and then also really bringing in this seriously empowered and resilient local component. Those three frames are going to be key for us. Why is it politicians, they think they should have the power, they should be in power for life and never criticize? The vote shaming is insane. We're headed down a dark path. Well, I mean, look, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the phrase vote shaming, to be honest. I think blaming the electorate and kind of throwing your hands up and saying voters are idiots or whatever, and demonizing members of the electorate across the board is a very bad idea, and pretty foolish, and certainly not synchronized with any type of social democratic or democratic socialist project. Now, conversely, I don't, look, I think, I won't be calling people idiots or whatever for how they vote this time around, but I also think that we were going to say what we think is a smart way to vote or not vote, and that's not vote shaming, and we can all, uh, you know, critique, engagement, and debate is actually fine. Now, obviously, I think the elites you're referring to are totally ossified, totally arrogant, totally disgusting, and totally embarrassing, and of course, anti democratic. Given this current pandemic, would you consider making content centered on mindfulness, meditation? Derek from Springfield. Yes, I think I'm going to do something with Joseph Goldstein for patrons, who's an amazing Vipassana meditation teacher. I'd look him up. I think also Susan Green, who's been a really important teacher to me. I'm actually going to do some stuff with her. I think probably also for patrons. I think the Joshua Kahn Russell conversations, and he's one of our major people on the show, is very much in the spirit of this. And I do think that that's important. I do think that, you know, taking care of yourselves and taking care of ourselves internally actually has overlap with what we are going to need to sort of the skill sets we're going to need to cultivate to go where we need to go politically, if that makes sense. Keep learning while isolating, and self-care discipline is important, folks. We're all connected, like it or not. That's exactly right. Interdependence is not just a nice slogan. It is a absolute physical reality of life. And and that sort of juxtaposition of the incredible empathy and solidarity that that reality should generate should also be synchronized with the fact that we should be thinking to ourselves about what we're cultivating, in terms of our own kind of individual selves we're bringing to interdependence. And this is, again, why I really want to keep encouraging, because all of us are deeply flawed. All of us are really imperfect. All of us make mistakes. All of us also have to call upon ourselves to try to figure some fucking stuff out right now, because this is a serious time. This is not a bullshit time. This is not a silliness time. This is not a fucking nonsense time. We need to be on it as best we can, because it's really on. Let me pivot from that to say, smash the like button. 700 people watching, 293 likes. Smash the like button. And of course, if you haven't yet, hit subscribe to the TMBS channel. And like I was saying earlier, how many people in the chat have watched the illicit history documentaries, and how strongly would you recommend everybody else watch those great illicit history documentaries? Medicare for All is definitely an easier sale at the moment. That's all good news I got. Thanks for sharing wisdom. I got extra cash at the moment. So here's some solidarity. Keep up the struggle. Thanks a million, Kowalski. Much appreciate you, brother. Stay safe, stay healthy. Glad you're doing well. I hope you keep doing well. And I actually, speaking of you, I want to do a lot more content, as related to this broader conversation of internationalism, national social democracy, and serious local empowerment. There's going to need to be a lot of conversations on agriculture, and agriculture across the geography of the United States. What are your thoughts on guns and gun control? I don't have much thoughts on them. It's not a major area for me. I'm sure that if I was putting up for a vote, I would vote for, different gun control packages. I think the American fetish of guns is not great, but I also think, I'm not interested in culture war politics around guns. So, yeah, definitely, if you haven't yet, the illicit histories, and really the whole frame of this show of getting much more historically oriented, I just can't think. I just don't think there's anything more important than that. I think that that's going to be the context that allows us to actually, draw from the right resources and draw from the right moments and get the right analysis to actually meet the crisis we're in. Uh, when will violence be justified? I keep going back to this dark place about capitalism. Well, I don't know. I mean, questions like that and things like that are, it's like certainly not in the context of a kind of, I see people call for these things on like social media platforms, and it's like, guys, that's not like, and you also have to look at where, and what context you're facing. So, really concretely, right now, the most effective and serious thing would be a national strike wave, work strikes, rent strikes, and other really, really important areas like that. And yes, I would really like to see, as the person said earlier, the Bernie Sanders campaign mobilize itself to just do a national action. It can be all over, it can be millions of calls to Congress and say, now is the time for Medicare for all. Now is the time for every single human being to have full government health care for life. No more fucking around, no more bullshit. We cannot keep indulging these parasite companies that kill people and suck resources from the system. It's inefficient, it's dumb, and it's ridiculous. I would say, and completely immoral and completely grotesque. I would say beyond that, start reading, start thinking about different historical moments, different movements, different struggles that might be relevant to where we are today. I think that's something you got to do and you got to look at. And of course, you're in a dark place with capitalism because we're in a very dark place. I mean, these things are accelerating right now. Uh, this is happening. It's really, really bad, and we do need to make really serious and really fundamental changes. I mean, even just on the level of that we knew for decades. Again, I always keep mentioning this book. There's this book that Laurie Jarrett wrote in 2000 called Betrayal, which is all about the global collapse of public health networks. This neoliberal model, down to Donald Trump getting rid of the pandemic, preparedness unit. This stuff has been put into place through this policy. Watch the neoliberal implosion documentary we did with Mark Blythe. We're here for a reason, and we need to get to a very different place politically and culturally. Um, Okay, Michael, Michael, sorry to call you out. BS, just my opinion. Won't say you're against gun control because you don't want to anger off liberals. Thoughts? Uh, I don't have much thought on that. As I've said, I'm just not particularly interested in gun control one way or another, which certainly pisses off liberals. I don't have a problem with people owning guns. I don't have a problem with people who, I know people who shoot, who go on the range. I think a message of taking people's guns away is not intelligent, it's not effective. I think obviously there are some things that could be put into place to make the process safer. It's not an area I have a huge amount of expertise on. I'll completely own that. And that's it. I think it should. I don't think it should be a culture war issue, and I think to the extent that we really need to take that issue on, it has to be about the gun control industry itself. It has to be about how they've affected politics, how they've undermined democracy, how they have engaged in fear mongering and race baiting and things like that. Not a broader culture war around guns. There's a lot of different people who own guns for a lot of different reasons, and I am not interested in that type of culture war politics. People are going to be on the brink of absolute desperation at the end of this. Strikes could turn to riots easily. Kyle wasn't totally wrong. Well, I don't know who Kyle is, but yes. I mean, of course. I mean, guys, there's a reason that the Financial Times, and to be fair, or to be clear, I mean, Martin Wolf, Financial Times columnist, has been writing this stuff for years, at least since the 2008 crash, that there needs to be serious reform. There needs to be a social safety net. Kyle Kalinske, much respect. I don't know what video you're referring to, but yes, Kyle's totally right. You guys, of course I know who Kyle Kalinske is. I don't know who Kyle is in the context of a random question. Don't assume we've all seen every video that's ever been put out. But yes, of course it could lead to those things. And that's why you'll see in, the Financial Times editorial page and that kind of section of the sort of global business class, a concern and an interest in bringing forward some reforms because I think they're very concerned about those outcomes. I think on the right, the right side of the oligarchy, uh, the interest, and I go back to the DOJ directives that Bill Barr requested, are much more repressive, frankly. Okay, if there's going to be insurrection, let's strip people's civil liberties. Let's partner with Palantir to surveil them more, which is another reason why that biochip thing is a very bad idea. But I think in other parts, again, in the financial pages, there's read the Financial Times, don't read the New York Times. They'll have a much more serious analysis of the stage of social crisis we're in and some receptivity to decent liberal reforms. Now, to be clear, it doesn't mean that their ideology is changing. It means that their their ability to absorb different policy ideas is still revolves around their position and preserving their position in power. Fist in the air, feet on the ground, head in the game, love and solidarity. Everyone get on DM 25 Shreko doing amazing conversations there most nights. Yes, Shreko's awesome. Obama impression. Obama is Cuomo sexual. I just love, Andrew Cuomo's taking command. I just love those daily briefings and the banter with his brother. Can he be my boyfriend? Can we take a trip in a limo together? That's a bad Obama joke. You can look that up. That was the most ridiculous conspiracy theory. I just want to cop with Andrew Cuomo. With regard to violent action, I would recommend Matt Crispin's review of The Weatherman. Building a popular base is necessary for any kind of action. Well, that's the other major thing, too, is that literally any kind of popular action, including electing a president, having an effective protest movement. The left is still so fractured and non-strategic that we can't put the cart ahead of the horse here. We need to rebuild and rethink how the left is actually doing things for any kind of mass politics. I've never heard people engaged in paying attention to the politics they are now. I'm not sure how much longer the media can control the narrative. I think that's 100% true, but I also think that's going to filter in many different directions, with another reason why we need to build a really compelling and engaged case. Run a Republican on a progressive agenda minus identity politics, replace it with America this and family values. They want anti-establishment, but are too dumb to see Trump ain't it. Smart political tool to call yourself a socialist. Certainly not in all cases. Absolutely not. Of course not. That word obviously still has a lot of baggage. For younger voters, it doesn't. I think in general, I'm totally willing to jettison any terminology that isn't effective. I'm not obsessed about language definitions in general. That's actually a kind of pedant part of politics that doesn't interest me. I do think the word socialism and the word socialist has such a serious history, and also the ability to be an adult and read Marx is vital, because Marx has a very important and relevant analysis for where we are. So we can't completely submit to decades of fear-mongering and childish fantasy thinking and propaganda. So there does need to be pushback with reading Marxist literature and a certain language and history of socialism, but I would not fetishize any word. And I think, yes, of course, in certain cases, socialist is obviously not a helpful political tool. There's no political word. There's no doubt about it. Could we possibly get an interview with either David North or Joseph Kisher of the World Socialist website? I'll look into that. I'm open to it. Only Built for Cuban Links or Liquid Swords? Only Built for Cuban Links. I love both albums, but Only Built for Cuban Links is one I still listen to. And yeah, I mean, Verbal Intercourse with Nas, that is one of the what led me to I can't even accept that. I'm as selfish as anybody. I'm incredibly selfish. We all are. That's the work, right? but we have to start with being real. And I think that's another reason we have to cultivate a culture of much more forgiveness and openness, because then there's actually more honesty and more self-interrogation and more work. Um, but I think obviously there's certain experiences that can cultivate empathy, and I think different life experience, different spiritual practices, whatever, and also seeing where you've fallen short, as we all do. Um, 804 people, 395 likes. Smash the like button. Elicit a history on Madrigon and Basque co-ops. That is a great idea. I'm going to add that. We will definitely do a Patreon illicit history on that. The way it goes for patrons, I think some people are still confused. For $8 a month, uh, what you do is you support, first of all, the 2 hour every Tuesday main show and all of these streams. We put out a huge amount of public content. Then we do basically another at least hour and a half, usually 2 hour post game. And we have on Ben Burgess and Joshua Kahn Russell, and we take questions and we go over clips and we have deep dives on various subjects. And it's a whole other really great show. Smash the like button. Smash the like button. 799 people, 446 likes. Let's keep it going. Smash the like button, folks. Smash the like button. And then on Sunday, uh, I'll get to that question in a second. And then on Sundays, we have a in-depth audio only episodes, and that we've actually been expanding them more during the quarantine into two-parters. So we just did a two-part illicit history of the Mozambican revolutionary Samara Machel, which goes back to the Portuguese colonialism through how philanthropy and the World Bank and IMF is destroying Mozambique today. And those are, for people at $8 patron level, you get all of those. You get all of those shows, and you also can join the Discord community. So that's like the bottom base. You get everything. At 21 and above, I do a Skype call or a conference call about once or twice a month with everybody who wants to call in at that level. Those are really fun. They're usually pretty loose. Sometimes we'll have someone like Joshua Kahn or Luke Mayville on and have like a sort of like training session. Like we did a two-part series of calls on how to organizing with Joshua, who's been a professional organizer for his whole professional life. And then you also get those illicit history docs first. And then other people are patrons at even higher levels. And you get all of those benefits, and you help the show. That's how the show happens. You help also fund, the folks that we give deals to and everything else. So that's how it works. And then, of course, we've got merch, which will start up again in another couple of weeks. And we're going to be doing books soon. We're going to be doing some TMBS guides, TMBS Guide to a Strategic Left, TMBS Guide to Latin America, and a lot of other stuff that you can engage with. I think libertarian socialism is an appealing model. I think, though, just like you asked me earlier about, about the word socialist, and yes, it can be unhelpful, no doubt, in certain contexts. I think the word libertarian in the United States, that ship has sailed. I mean, we associate libertarian with basically, with extreme right-wing fanaticism in a more capitalist fanaticism. In a more narrow sense, the idea of a socialist system that respected a open society and people's rights and freedoms, and I would say even beyond that. Again, I think that could really overlap with the critiques I have of cancel culture and things like that. I think it's an appealing model, but I am not attached to the word libertarian. I think I've heard Noam Chomsky identify as a libertarian socialist at times. There is an anarchist tradition that is worth engaging in. I'm not an anarchist, but I have read some Kropotkin, and people I've mentioned earlier, particularly Ivan Illich, are influenced by that tradition. Richard Wolff is going to be on tomorrow at 7:25 for the main show. What do you think about this term social capitalist? it would mean the same as democratic socialist, I think it would twist some fools into knots. Well, I don't think it does exactly mean the same thing as democratic socialist. I think it can be fun. I mean, look, I think substantively it's important to tell people that markets and capitalism are not the same thing. And we do not oppose all markets. We oppose the overall structural design with capitalism because it's incompatible with the scientific and ecological and, most importantly, human needs of the moment. Donut now, okay. I don't know what that means. Love and solidarity, brother. Love and solidarity back. Thank you so much. How do I get info on the Discord? I became a patron about a year ago. It doesn't appear on the Patreon mobile app and no one ever responds when I ask. Dude, I am sorry. Send us a Patreon message and we will figure it out. I'm not sure about that, but send us a message. We'll figure it out. I am sorry to hear that. So, I think that, folks, we have to hang in. I will definitely do more kind of content on the mindfulness side. Tomorrow, we're going to have Chris Smalls, amazing Amazon organizer. Let's be in solidarity. Let's boycott Amazon and Whole Foods now. Richard Wolff's going to be on. We're going to be talking about really this capitalist crisis that he's been saying is going to be happening for some time now. I'm going to be going deep into localism and resiliency in the opening commentary. Tons of stuff going on. And of course, as always, the two-part illicit histories for patrons are coming up. If you want, yes, Brian Mayer is great. I'm so proud of the two-part history we did of Samora Machel. And I think that deep internationalism, that deep understanding of interdependence is so fundamental to what we're doing and so important for everything else. Of course, go to Red Emma's, pre-order Against the Web, Cosmopolitan Answer to New Right, my new book. I'm really excited about it. We're seeming to herd towards choosing between two leaders that we should expect to get only from an inbred hereditary monarchy. That sounds about right, particularly the current run. As I say, if you can, and if you want any sort of deal, just let us know. Go to patreon.com/TMBS. Let's do a quick, before we go, let's do another smash the like button. Let's do another round. We got another bunch of likes we need to get. Smash the like button, smash the like button. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe on the Michael Brooks Show YouTube channel. Go to patreon.com/TMBS. We'll help you out. And if you don't need help and you've been thinking about it, it's time to become a patron. It will help, support everybody else that's coming on, and we'll keep doing the work we're doing. Is David Pakman good for the left? He detests Maduro. I like that, David. I like David. You are cool. Thank you. Sort of drama spark questions are probably not the best format for me. Hit the like button, and then also I would just say, look, I think I have very different politics than David, but he's a good guy, and I honestly don't watch, I don't watch most people's shows, and that's in no way a knock on them. There's just a very limited amount of time, and the people I have on, I'm watching and reading and listening to. So that's a good place to start for, if you're curious about what I'm into, check out what I'm reading and listening to, and also putting out, on social media, because I really do try to tell you, read this book, read Alexander Cockburn, I'm reworking the German ideology. I would actually recommend this is a really great Castro conversation. Subscribe to the Baba Ramdas podcast. Subscribe to the Joseph Goldstein podcast, and all sorts of other things that I'm putting out. What kind of world do you hope we could create? Where is the end goal that you were fighting for? How does your spiritual practice fit into that? I think Jimmy Cliff was a good recommendation. I love Jimmy Cliff, and I have been on a huge Jimmy Cliff kick ever since that show. Um, I think that we can get rid of all preventable bullshit suffering. There's no doubt that everybody on earth doesn't need to worry about healthcare, food, clothing, housing, shelter. And once we do that, we can create an opportunity where we get back to that E.F. Schumacher quote earlier, where people can have an opportunity to do meaningful work, where they can have an opportunity to, constitute themselves socially and in labor and each facet of their life. And I think when that happens, then we'll go to a phase of productive suffering where people can, figure themselves out, have the room to grow as humans. And that, I think, is some form of my politics. I love Bad Empanada. Bad Empanada is really, really smart, and I really, really enjoy the videos I've seen. He's one of the most historically grounded people I've seen on YouTube, and he's great. Also, I want to just say as well that, yeah, Ban Empanada is a really good channel. I'd go check it out. I also want to say too that we're going to be announcing something tomorrow. Thank you, for the $8 patron. Thank you all patrons. Appreciate all of you immensely. Um, Friday, I'm doing a Jack. What do I think of Caleb Maupin? I don't know enough about Caleb Maupin. That's somebody that I don't have a big familiarity with. I have to look him up. So yeah, I would look up. So Friday, I'm doing a Jacobin show with Adolf Reed and others on the myth of on the sort of complexifying and de-essentializing the African American vote. Watch RMR Rascal if you want a good laugh. I will check that out. Does Dave Rubin appreciate the ideas at play on the Jacobian left? The Jacobian left? Are there any Jacobians in the audience? Are there any Jacobs in the audience? And then on Saturday, I'm going to be launching a new show for another platform with a really, really good friend of mine, somebody that people have been wanting to see us collaborate for a long time. It's a different thing. It's not a Patreon show. It affects absolutely nothing with TMBS. I'll only be doing more TMBS. That TMBS is the heart of everything for me and my core commitment. Then there's also obviously Woke Bros with Wozni Lambre and Nando Vila, which I would definitely check out and subscribe to on iTunes. I'll keep doing that, as well as, of course, my 2 days a week on the Majority Report. But it's going to be a new show on a platform that I think is awesome, on a platform that I'm going to be doing a different, more work with on kind of expanding their video presence because they've primarily been written. And it's going to be a Saturday weekend show. Rubin said that the rise of socialism caused the virus. I mean, yeah, Dave Rubin says a lot of really, really stupid things. He's not a smart guy. He's dumb. So look forward to that. And I would say, once again, smash the like button. Smash the like button, folks. Smash the like button. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet. For all of you who are patrons, I thank all of you so much. It's very, very appreciated. I have a really, really deep belief in what we're doing, and it supports all of us as we do this and pay our bills and support families and figure everything out. I'm just honored, as always. And if you can, go to patreon.com/TMBS and become a patron. We'll help you out, and if you need it, and I'll be back, obviously live tomorrow with the main show with Richard Wolf and Chris Smalls. We're going to be talking about the whole cataclysm of capitalism, the boycotts and Amazon, reinventing localism for the global age, planetary culture, and a hell of a lot more, as we always do. We put out so much content. We're going to do Joshua Kahn Russell's new illicit history record segment for the post game, and of course the debunk with the great Ben Burgess. And we're going to keep going and going. And you'll also hear more about this new show that is going to be launched on Saturday. Stay safe, stay healthy. Appreciate all of you so much. And please, what is Beetle Guri thing in the background? I don't know what that even means. That is a painting of Kali, who is a Hindu goddess who I have an enormous respect for. It's kind of funny to say, but it's a powerful image. So I don't know what the gory thing is, but that is Kali. Look it up, and appreciate all of you so much. Be well, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you all so much.